Okay, with the Virginia governor gubernatorial race being today, I actually wanted to take a moment of time to explain to you why this entire race is a fucking joke. But before I get into that, what I want to do is show you this clip of Mr. Glenn Youngkin. I made a video on him previously, kind of about this same topic, but just look, this is what he's running on. This is his main issue right here. Take a look at this.
We're trying so hard to live up to those immortal words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who implored us to be better than we are, to judge one another based on the content of our character and not the color of our skin. And so let me be clear. Let me be clear. On day one, we will not have political agendas in the classroom, and I will ban critical race theory.
That's absolutely amazing. So we have Terry McAuliffe. Fuck it. We're just going to call him Terry. I don't know how to say his name. And we have Glenn. Let's just go Terry and Glenn because their last names are absolutely ridiculous. This is amazing. This is amazing. This is American politics at its finest. It's just a bunch of theatrics, guys. So just to address that video very quickly, critical race theory, as he calls it, isn't taught anywhere in the state of Virginia. If you think I'm lying, look it up and research it yourself. I want to say it one more time. This guy is riding a wave of banning critical race theory, something that his voters nor he himself even can define. They don't know the meaning of it. They don't know what it is. But yet, this is his core issue, and this is what he's promising to his quote-unquote constituents when it isn't taught anywhere in Virginia. Needless to remind you guys, need I remind you, critical race theory is only taught in higher education. Not even all higher education. I'm a college graduate. I don't even think the school I went to taught critical race theory. In fact, I know it didn't. So where is it being taught? In not even undergrad, graduate school. Let me be very specific here. Graduate school, law school. Who do you know that's in law school? I don't know. I don't know anybody. Maybe your father or cousin is a lawyer. You see, what I'm trying to explain is who's actually learning this? Like, where is it being taught? And the reason I keep making that argument is because they keep acting like it's being taught in your regular schmegular, kindergarten. Like kids are actually learning. Nobody's learning this stuff. Not only that, but they don't even know what it means. They're just, and then they just get in power and they ban divisive concepts. All he's doing is playing into people's fears, playing into people's bigotry, and saying, hey, we're going to ban something that has to do with, something, another race. Vote for me. And he's riding this fucking wave. He's a fraud. This entire campaign is a joke. Not just his, but Terry's as well. Let's get into who these two characters are. I'm not going to be really specific. I'm just going to give you a quick outlay to really bolster the argument that this entire thing is a joke. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that these are the two candidates that Virginians have to pick from. I mean, this is American politics at its finest. So let's start with Mr. Terry here, the Democrat. First of all, he's a Democratic shill, okay? And this right here encapsulates who he is entirely. And I shouldn't have to say anything else about this guy. He is a Democrat, of course, but he was the co-chairman of, we're talking about Terry here. He was the co-chairman of President Bill Clinton's 1996 re-election campaign. If you have any association with the Clintons, you're not getting a vote from me. He was the chairman of the Democratic National Committee from 2001 to 2005. Terrible. He was also the chairman of Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign. Oh, there's more. He was on the board of directors of the Clinton Foundation. This is the Democratic candidate right here. This is a Democratic candidate. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. And he, of course, needless to say, he helped them fundraise millions of dollars. But we know how insanely corrupt the Clintons are. Needless to say, he's cut from the same cloth. We have Barack Obama, and also insanely corrupt Democratic rag who didn't do much when he was in office. Barack Obama came out to campaign for this guy, gave a speech on his behalf, and Barack Obama's speech was essentially, hey, you should vote for Terry. He's not going to fix all your problems. In fact, he's not really going to do anything. He's not going to do shit. But hey, you should vote for him because he's a Democrat. If you don't believe me, look up the speech. It might be on YouTube. It might not. I don't have the video, so I can't play it. But that was Barack Obama's message. Absolutely terrible. All the gusto he had from 2008 and 2012 when he was running on re-election, he lost it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. At least back then he did the posturing. And then, of course, when he got in office, he caved and bailed out Wall Street and did all the other things, right? But he at least made it sound like he gave a fuck about the people. And the speech that he gave to bolster the Democrat, Mr. Terry here, it was absolutely terrible. But let's move off Terry. Like I said, I'm not going to go into great detail about these individuals. But let's move off Terry and go to Mr. Glenn Kenan right here. Mr. Glenn. So this is a guy that's literally writing on critical race theory to get elected. Need I remind you, it's not taught in the entire state of Virginia. But he's going to ban it. And I actually let this slip under the radar. So he quoted MLK in that video that I played for you. Quoted MLK. Needless to say, he quoted him out of context. But he quoted MLK. I want to read to you another MLK quote. Because I love how these people, they always quote these great historical leaders, right? And they pull specific quotes that they want to use, of course, out of context to bolster whatever bullshit argument they're trying to push over on people. Let me tell you something that MLK also said, and I quote, call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, but there must be a better distribution of wealth within this country for all God's children. That is what he said in a speech to the Negro American Labor Council in 1961. MLK said that. Do you think that this guy knows, Glenn, I'm referring to him, you think that this guy knows that MLK said that? You think that this guy knows that MLK was killed while he was on a poor people's campaign? Remember the Memphis sanitation worker strike? Does he even know what MLK's politics consisted of? He was a democratic socialist. He was a social democrat. He was, those terms aren't synonymous, by the way, but he was what we would call today, a progressive. He cared about people. He did. And that was one of the main things that he was fighting for. He wasn't just fighting racism. No, not at all. They love to confine him to that one aspect and then, trot out these old lines that he had, but they neglect the other part of his legacy. They don't tell you what I think is actually the most important part of MLK's legacy and why he's so great and why he's a hero and why he's a fucking legend. They don't tell you these things. They just, they'll throw out, judge a person by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Oh, and by the way, I'm banning critical race theory when it is even taught in my state. It's a fucking joke. I'm on his website here, Mr. Glenn Kenan. Listen what he has to say. Glenn will cut exploding costs for families and relieve the burdens of inflation and taxes. He will cut regulations. This guy's running on cutting regulation, banning CRT. It's absolutely hilarious what's going on here. But I mean, this is what conservative constituents typically fall for when the arguments, on the economic things aren't being made. And of course, they aren't being made because both of these candidates are corrupt and terrible. This guy is like a former private business leader. He's not going to come out for Medicare for all or anything that people actually forget about. People actually care about. Need I remind you that Virginia is a state that has a strong labor history. Sure, they may be socially conservative, but on the economics, they're fucking progressive. They support fixing our minimum wage. They support healthcare, jobs, things of that nature. But they get ignored because these politicians are corrupt and they don't care about those things. But I'm rambling at this point. I think I've dunked on this enough. This entire race is a joke. So on the Democratic side, we have a Democratic shield that works for the establishment, that believes in expanding Obamacare. That's it in terms of healthcare. He was a rag for the Clinton Foundation and the Clintons in general. Okay, he helped Bill Clinton and Hillary. We know how corrupt they are together. I mean, both of them are insanely corrupt. So that's who he is. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we got some insane, fanatical, anti-CRT legend here that plans to ban CRT. That's the first thing he's going to do when he gets in office. He loves quoting Dr. Martin Luther King. That seems to be his line of attack. Let's throw out American and African-American hero, and then let's throw in something else that kind of goes against that, but we said his name and we kind of support him, so maybe they'll fall in line and not realize what the fuck I'm doing. This is a shit show. Neither of these guys are good. They're both fucking terrible in my eyes, but this is American politics.